All right, you are now tuned in to episode number 14. Everyone is battling something. This is the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmylee Velez. I am here with the entire crew. That's right, we have Gabe, Goose, Heck, and Manny. And if you are new to the podcast, we want to thank you. We want to welcome you. We encourage you to download and subscribe. Every Tuesday morning, we have a new episode that is released for your listening and educational pleasure. And how we kick off every podcast, every episode is with a brief description and then a little story. So in this episode, everyone is battling something. We discuss life struggles, and during the battle, being sensitive to certain situations, having empathy, and handling the struggle in front of our children. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Pope Paul VI and Elisabeth Kubler-Ross. So let's jump right into the story. It's titled Everyone Has a Story in Life. This is a short story written by livin3.com. That's LIVIN, the number 3.com. So the story goes like this. A 24-year-old boy seeing out from the train's window shouted, "Dad, look, the trees are going behind." Dad smiled, and a young couple sitting nearby looked at the 24-year-old's childish behavior with pity. Suddenly he again exclaimed, "Dad, look, the clouds are running with us." The couple couldn't resist and said to the old man, "Why don't you take your son to a good doctor?" The old man smiled and said, "I did. We're just coming home from the hospital. My son was blind from birth, and he just got his eyes today." Every single person on the planet has a story. Don't judge people before you truly know them. The truth might surprise you.
Wow.
So that story is, well, first of all, there's like multiple layers to feeling some type of way. But everyone is battling something is the topic. And it's very interesting and easy for us, just as humans, to make judgments on people without getting the full picture. And we said this before on certain topics, but this one's interesting, related to someone's, one of their senses, which is incredible. And since he was a 24-year-old boy, they just thought that this man is acting childish.
Yeah.
And then when you get the full scoop as to what's going on, it's kind of one of those things like, what would you say if you were on the train for the first time that you could actually see and what's going on?
This is crazy. Like, some people didn't know the situation, and right away they're like, "Oh, we can get you you should go take your son to see a good doctor." How rude is that? Like, you don't know this kid. There's obviously a reason, and who are you to judge and say, "Hey, your kid's a little off. You should go get him checked out."
I mean,
basically that's what they were saying. Like,
Exactly.
Obviously the father knows what's going on with his son.
I think that's what gave the answer, though. I mean, his response was very
mellow.
mellow,
Yeah.
cool. Like, listen, man, if you were going through what he's going through, you'd be the same way. So it was very kind of relaxed, cool, kind of under control. But most people might snap.
Probably because he's been dealing for the past 24 years.
That's true.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it is
He
true.
knows he already expects what to say or do at that time.
I think it's more powerful too that you drop a sledgehammer of a remark in such tranquility.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm
that's the
saying?
best way to drop a bomb.
Like let that sit on your brain for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? That's something you'll never forget.
Yeah,
that.
never.
You know what I mean? Oh, we just recommended a doctor for a person who's actually happy about seeing stuff that honestly we take for granted.
Yeah,
You know
absolutely.
what I mean?
true.
It is.
The other thing that we like to do is kind of put some definitions out there to really encapsulate what we're trying to discuss and stay on topic. So the first one is this is defined by dictionary.com. Battle. Battle is defined as any conflict or struggle. And then the definition for struggle is a task or a goal requiring much effort to accomplish or achieve. I know when I was studying in the personal development, well, I still am, but when I began, I found it very helpful to actually look words up that I thought I knew, and quite surprising educated myself on words, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because it puts it so, you mush words together.
Yeah.
Perfect examples like battle and struggle. They are different words, but then sometimes you could say like, okay, so then what's a conflict? Or okay, but if you actually start reading what their definitions are, a lot of times you'll get the difference, and it'd be very clear, and it's not something that you expect either. All right, so with that in mind, everyone's battling something. We'll jump into our questionable segment, which is, this is for the whole crew. In your life, what is one of your biggest battles you currently face or have faced in the past? Maybe something you wish people would have known or have been more sensitive towards.
For me, it's not like I don't wish any pity or if people would know, but something that I'm currently battling is the fact that I'm inevitably going to take the burden financially of taking care of my parents. They're going through, I know my mom has some health issues and my father faces some issues, which will kind of shorten their work careers. And I've kind of assumed the role. I don't even know. I think it's almost inflicted on my part, but I've taken that on, kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, well, I can see how this movie's going to end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm taking that on. So every decision that I make, whether it be for my career, for work or whatever, it's always multi-layered. It's not just what's best for me or my immediate family. It's for the bigger picture. It's for, can I get home quick enough? Can I be there at a reasonable time? Can I take said person to the doctors at this point? So any decision that I make currently, kind of passed up a job offer or two, to stay home and know that, unfortunately, but fortunately, I'll be able to stay home and help with what's likely going to ensue. So, but no pity, but that's just something I face. A battle that I face.
Now, is that something that you want to take on as well? Because it seems like sometimes you want to do it. It's just the uncertainty is kind of like makes you. Wondering. I guess you're kind of just in the dark as to, well, how's this going to pan out or whatever. But then at the same time, it's kind of good that ahead of time and you can somewhat plan.
Yeah, and it's for me. It's hoping for the best but planning for the worst type thing. Parents would never ask me to do such a thing,
right?
But at the same time, I mean, everybody has parents and. I would love to afford them opportunities or give them help or assistance that, if they do need it, I'll be there to kind of help facilitate that, or at least be able to, make set amount of money to make that happen. So I don't know. Right now it's kind of new. It's something that I'm just kind of over the last couple of months been kind of taking in and starting to realize and digesting, and something that I've spoken to my wife about. So. Moving forward, that'll be kind of another factor, thinking about career opportunities or being able to move or upward mobility. So, but yeah, that
is that something that you seek counsel for? Is that something you're just going to try to figure out? Is that, I don't know how it works. I don't know.
Questions that come along, I'll ask somebody who might be in that situation. I don't know anybody personally, and for me, it's just at a point. I think about asking, and it's just like, I don't know. Right now, my mindset is just kind of man up, and whatever happens or whatever you need to do, just do it, type thing. That's kind of the mentality. It's almost very, very competitive, kind of, when you're out in the competitive ball field, you get anxious and you want to just do it. So at this point, I'm just do it. I'm not thinking about anything else.
Yeah, I don't know if does everyone have that in the back of their mind? I always thought like kids would eventually have to like do step up in some form, maybe not as much as what Manny's saying, but is that something natural, or is that something that only responsible people think of?
I would think it's natural.
Yeah, everybody wants to buy a house for their mom, right? Or the car or something. That's kind of the big dream growing up. So I'm going to buy my mom a house. And that was one for me.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, it's like, man, unless I sign a baseball contract or do something amazing, that's probably not going to happen. But as you get older and kind of mature, you can kind of see like I'm 30. Like there's really not that much time. My sweet spot for let's just say between your 20s into your 40s is you still got the energy. You're still sharp enough. I mean, if it's gonna happen, you can always do it later in life, but this is kind of the best time for it to happen because you're sharp. You still have the energy to do all of that, and then you kind of reap the benefits later down the road.
Gotcha. So your thing is more at this point is like financially finding cushion, or is it?
Yeah. Security, cushion, the upward mobility to obviously the more responsibility you take on, the larger the paycheck. So just kind of prepping myself. This is all practice. Everything I do now is for the next step. This is just part of the repertoire. This is kind of sharpening my sword here as, before I go into battle. I'll have everything. So when I do step into the arena, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, and there's mistakes you're going to make.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're better off making them now than when you're actually, going through, through that certain situation.
Absolutely.
When you don't have the ability or the health to change things.
Right. Yeah, because we've seen that also unfold, whether it's friends, family, or just, maybe a story that you heard where you have this healthy as a horse, male or female, whatever, and they're making great money, and all of a sudden, boom, they go down for whatever reason, whether it's a health reason, their job site shuts down or whatever,
right.
And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this like super powerful person that we knew is almost like needs help,
right.
And it's just weird seeing that transition, and it stinks. And I'm not sure, I'm sure there's a solution to that's specific for each person. It's not like obviously people say, oh, everyone just keep stockpiling money, but every situation is so different. Right. Like, perfect example, like me and my wife, like we got hit with so many medical bills in like a 2-month span. That was only for 2 months. That were like, it was right during Christmas time. And I'm like, what in the world is going on right now? And it was just like, dude, imagine when that was just 2 months and none of us were really sick. It was just, that's what it cost for me to go in and out, to specialists and stuff. Yeah. Which is the battle that I wanted to talk about, which was like a digestion problem, whatever. It's like a health thing. But it's funny because not a lot of, there's not a lot of awareness. There's not a lot of educated people out there to I guess inform other people that not everyone can eat certain foods, because I didn't know that. And then all of a sudden now you see like in the news all these kids have allergies, they're allergic to everything, and I don't know if the human race itself is evolving into something else. And I know we're all kind of tolerant to certain things, but yeah, then I just realized that there was certain foods that I was eating that was destroying my stomach, like pain after pain. I'm like, what is going on? So that's when I went to all these specialists and all this other, and man, they checked everything, and they said there's nothing wrong with you. You're definitely you're eating something that's bothering your stomach. You have to figure out what it is. And then I have to do this little daily diary, this food diary they call it, and really hone in on specific foods and what's bothering you. So we started finding like a couple of the culprits or whatever, and I feel a lot better. I have a lot more energy. It stinks though, man, because it's one of those things where you're kind of like, perfect example was like yesterday was 4th of July. My mom had us over for, the parade at her house, and you come back to the house and it's like Dunkin' Donuts. There's donuts out there. There's Dunkin' Donuts, the big bagels with the cream cheese, and you're like, dude, this is amazing. And I feel like, and I don't know if it's just because me, I guess at for being ungrateful at times or whatever, not realizing how awesome that stuff is tasting. Right. And I was like, dude, if I eat that, my stomach would be demolished. Yeah. There's certain like breads, like I have to eat like gluten-free stuff or whatever. And I mean, I can sneak in stuff here and there, but for the most part, if I want to be like hurled over like pain, and I thought there was something internally wrong, it was just certain foods that were bothering me. But and then all of a sudden my brother bust out like the Pizza Hut. Man, we don't eat healthy at all. Start realizing like, wow, dude, like what are we doing to ourselves?
4th of July weekend.
It was a holiday weekend. That's not the normal case there. But then like the burgers and hot dogs, rice and beans, all that stuff was there. And then you manage, because all of a sudden it was like, all right, well, I still have white rice. I loved onions and garlic. I can't have onions and garlic. Not even onion and garlic powder. So it's like, oh man. So or the Spanish culture, one of our seasonings, adobo, which is kind of like a chicken or meat seasoning. That's when it originally was one of the original ones where it's kind of a bunch of seasonings crushed up into one, put in a little tiny container. They have other versions like Mrs. Dash and stuff like that. But I can't even have that stuff. So I'm like eating this bland meat. I'm just happy I can eat meat. Now I'm appreciating food like on a whole nother level.
Sure.
So I had a burger with cheddar cheese because I have cheddar cheese, but I can't have American. So it's all this like little stuff that I guess you take for granted, and then which kind of brings me back to you, Manny, because then I know, and it reminded me of you because I know you have certain stomach issues, and you could only eat certain things and drink certain things, and I'm like. And I remember you telling me, it wasn't that I didn't care. It was just like, I guess I didn't understand to this level till you're going through. I'm like, man, this is bull crap, dude. Holy smokes, you can't eat nothing. Yeah. But on the other end, I do feel better.
Oh, once you change your diet, you definitely do feel better. But what is your battle? Is the battle just because you want it and you're just kind of fighting your own demons at this point? Like, you just want to eat it because it tastes good? Like, what are you battling? What is it? Is it the health thing?
The urge to eat. Yeah, the urge to eat like whatever you want. Like you have to control. It's like it's a mind game. It's like that donut looks amazing right now.
And you know what it tastes. And you know what it tastes like. It's not like you've never had it before.
It's like, oh my gosh, they got the icing that I want. The chocolate icing with the sprinkles, and it's just staring at you.
Sure.
It's being able to overcome that weak thought. Mm-hmm. And then if you start putting it like that, then all of a sudden, then you start beating yourself up. If you do eat them, like, oh, dude, you're weak. You're a punk. You can't even handle that. You can't even have a donut in front of you. Then you got the example that you're setting for the people around you. Everyone's like, wait, he doesn't even pay attention to it. He doesn't care about his life. He doesn't care about his health. Mm-hmm. He's just killing his son. He's just sitting there eating. Now, I don't think anybody here would actually care because they figured it's a holiday. He's probably just, he doesn't, during the week, he's probably disciplined. But it was like one of those things. It makes you think about a lot of stuff. To me, it's a mind battle, really. Right. It's not like a battle, like something more serious. And thankfully, hopefully, if this continues, it might have been like preventative action,
right,
to something more serious.
Sure, because all that swelling and irritation turns into something bigger down the line. That was the big thing the doctors told me. He's like, listen, you nip it in the butt now, or if not, you're going to be hurting down the line. So yeah, you're doing the right thing. Yeah. Right. Short term sucks. Long term, Yeah.
And also, I just think it's just the adjustment that is it's jumping again when you're jumping out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. When you're used to just eating whatever you want and getting fat just because that was your decision, right. That's one thing. Right. But being able to control what you're eating because there's an actual reason behind it, which is kind of funny because we should be probably eating healthy. We should be taking care of our bodies anyway. It's just then when something comes up, then all of a sudden you start, wow, I do appreciate a lot of stuff that, and then took for granted certain things or certain foods that I can't have. Or if I do have, I'm going to pay the price.
And it was something that for obviously multiple years, it was just normal. It was like normal to be able to eat those things. So of course it's almost like, not culture shock, but it's like that type of thing where it's like you've had it so long and all of a sudden you can't have it. So it's just like, it's like like you said, it messes your mind.
It almost feel like there's no freedom. Like it's like a restriction. Yeah. So once you get that restriction, that's what makes things hard. It also comes back to discipline. If you're a disciplined person then it's like nothing. Like I know dudes like at work, they have like Fun Friday, they call it. Every Friday they put out like this layout of desserts or whatever just to kick off the weekend, I guess, every Friday at 2 p.m. Even when they have, like just celebrations or whatever, is free lunch, free stuff. Well, the lunches are amazing. Chicken, rice, pasta. You can eat healthy. They have salads. But then on the other table, they have ice cream, cakes, cupcakes. They have all this stuff. And you see all the people who are fit and thin eat their, it's like chicken and rice and stuff and a salad, and they come back and they're drinking water and they just go back to their, job. And dude, honestly, it's not even like a struggle to them. It's just a natural thing at this point. Then you see the people who, it is what it is. It's not, that conscious, I guess, of a healthier lifestyle, and they're just, digging in, boom, boom, boom. Now you're looking, all those are called temptations, I guess. Mm-hmm. And this is all related to food, but this can go to any subject. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I mean, people who are struggling with addictions and stuff like that, they can attest to this. It's not just food. It's just stuff that you get, you take for granted or whatever. And I guess in a sense I was abusing food, obviously, and my body. If I'm just annihilating stuff that's unknowingly, this is going to hurt my stomach, and boom, I'm eating spaghetti and meatballs. You know what I mean?
So you knew you were going to pay for it, but you did it anyway?
Yeah, because it tastes good.
Yeah.
That's weak.
Yeah, it is.
But at the same time, it's also dumb because you're making poor health choices, and then I'm paying the price, and this is what I get.
That's true, though. I mean, you get it.
What else do you think was coming?
Right.
If you really think you have, cheesesteaks and pizza and burgers, whatever you want, and eat candy and tasty cakes, and Lord knows I have a sweet tooth, and not pay for that?
Yeah.
They say you can't have, have your cake and eat it too, however the saying goes. And it's true, man. Wherever you're cutting corners at in one area, you're screwing yourself on something else.
What has been the biggest, adjustment? Because it kind of sounds like it's a blessing in disguise. I mean, the battle is the temptation, to resist the temptation.
I think there's a guilt as well. I honestly feel guilty I feel bad for my wife because now she wasn't abusing food. We eat like a normal, I guess, American would eat. The problem was maybe I was overeating, or I was definitely eating stuff it doesn't bother her stomach. Right. But now she has to eat this gluten-free pasta that's not the best. Right. And if anyone out there knows like the best gluten-free pasta, please email me. Cardboard.
Yeah, I am not going out to eat with you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And then here's the other thing. Then I'm at people's houses and they're offering me food, and they're so excited because we just bought. Went to my buddy's house, Chris. Him and his wife Tara just bought a house, so they go and we're visiting them. So we're all happy for them. Blah blah blah. I'm like, we just ordered pizza. Blah blah blah. And I'm just like sitting there and I can't eat that. And then they're like, well, what's going on? I'm like, no, I can't eat it. And I feel bad because I didn't want to make them feel bad, but they still felt bad. And I was like, it's the guilt. And then I just feel bad. And I'm like, geez, not only is it a mental thing for me, then it makes them feel bad. Because like, dang, you're here.
They pull out a bowl of Cheerios.
Yeah. Well, no, I just told them not. So now I try to make it so it's don't worry about it. It's just something I have to stick to, at least for now, until I figure something else out or whatever. But right now it's making me feel better. So it's
Is there gluten-free pizza?
Yeah. It was the one that I ordered was absolutely terrible. It's basically like a Ritz cracker with like sauce and it looked like it was like something that the kids sell for fundraisers.
So they could have just gave you the pizza box covered sauce and cheese.
Yeah, it was super powdery.
Goodness, dude.
It's gonna get better, though.
No, I think it'll get better. Plus, I just started out. This has been like 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks now. So people also say you'll find more and more stuff. And then grocery stores are now, converting. They have aisles now of just gluten-free stuff.
There's good variety out there now.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just that. But initially, same thing. Like you see, like with my mom, she's like, "Oh, guys, come over today, eat dinner." A bunch of stuff that I couldn't eat. And then she's staring at me, and you say that to a Spanish mom, like, no, you have to eat. Mm-hmm. So then she starts making something else, and you just feel bad. I think that's one of the things. I just feel bad for Kel, and I feel bad. Everyone else who has to deal with it. It's like, dude, because it's not their problem, it's my problem.
Yeah, just you. It's affecting everyone.
Like the other day when you came over to a house on Saturday, I made burgers, and I used garlic powder, onion powder on the burgers, and I put Colby Jack cheese on top of them. And I knew that Jimmylee was coming. So I was like, all right, I'm going to cook everybody's burgers. So I waited for him to come. I'm like, here, Jim, here's your burger. Dry, I threw it on there, nothing on it. I'm like,
it's a Frisbee.
Yo, Jim, really? That's just cheddar on there? That's it? And it's like, so I knew what he was going through. So I, got the burger, just a plain burger, and got it ready for him. And completely forgot about the roll. He can't even have a regular hamburger roll. He ate it like that with just a burger and cheese.
Which is fine. But again, that was an adjustment. When we went to the Phillies game, I brought my own cheese. I brought my own sourdough bread.
Yeah, I packed his little Happy Meal.
Exactly. And I was happy. But I try to I said it to the cook on the side. Don't put seasoning on these 2 burgers, whatever. Don't put nothing on this hot dog. Just put them to the side. If not, I'll cook afterwards or whatever. It's not a big deal if you're actually open about it. It's just now that the more and more people know, also they're going to be conscious as well, and ask what can you have? Well, now that's where we're at now. Yeah, which hopefully we can get over that too.
Kind of teaching everybody their ins and outs of it.
I get better.
Yeah. So what do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah. What do you do?
I paid for it the next morning. But like no,
so you still got.
So I still have issues. My issues pay for like so gyms, from what I understand, are more immediate. I can kind of weather the storm till the next morning, and then that's when. So like I don't go out for breakfast in the morning.
Okay.
I don't feel good in the morning. So like going out in the morning and doing something like I know some time ago there was a walk that we were gonna do. Let's be there by 7, and I'm thinking to myself, it's like, oh man, I don't want to do that, but I did it. I paid for it. My stomach hurt so bad, and it's one of those things where you're just like, for me, it's not necessarily kind of curled over. It's more like looking around, knowing my surroundings, that type of scared. And we've all been there. But even 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, my son had a game, and it was 8 o'clock in the morning. I was up at 5 o'clock in the morning, prepping myself, going through my morning routine to be able to make it to an 8 o'clock game.
So it's for when you wake up. Is when
I
you
wake up.
There's from the night before.
It's from the night before. Like it has to kind of get. There's a whole process to it. It's like an hour to 2 hours before I can actually physically get up and do something. So if you tell me to come to your house at 7 o'clock in the morning for something, and I get there, that means I was up at 5 or 4,
okay. Right.
just to kind of get going and to make sure that I'm
But this is
I'm
only
straight.
For the morning. This is like
Most of the time, and it's just the weekends.
And once your day started, you're
I'm good.
on the clear.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. But yeah, so mine will be more I pay for it in the morning. So and then there's certain things I stay away from. Less like pasta kind of hurts. But it's all these things. It's just like I've actually grown accustomed to the pain.
Yeah.
Once you understand the pain too, you
stinks,
can
though.
manage it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be times at dinner where I'll just be like looking straight ahead, and my wife will be like, "Are you okay?" And I'm just thinking, and meanwhile, my stomach is just either burning or just hurting. Everybody else is talking, and I immediately feel guilty because my wife knows, like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." But I'm not talking to anybody. I'm not looking at anybody.
Not enjoying anything.
No. And I feel bad, like Jim says, and you kind of get over it, and people just don't even think about it after a while. But when it's first fresh, it sucks for everybody else around you, and that's where you feel bad.
Yeah, it's like a shock. It's not a culture shock. What do you call that? I don't know, lifestyle, dramatic lifestyle change, big time.
Yeah, that's the word.
And I felt bad because then there's food in there that I would just, my wife spent hundreds of dollars on that I would annihilate. Yeah. And just sitting there and expiring and, it's waste.
Just call me over.
I should have thought of that, actually. Actually, to be honest with you, I thought we'd finish here, have people over and go through it, but it's just us two and a 2-year-old, so it's a lot harder than I thought.
Yeah. Here's the thing, when you think about it, and you kind of, I never really feel sorry for them. Everybody's got something.
Yeah.
Mine's is just stomach issue. You talk to somebody else, they got a back problem. They can't move this, or they can't do that. They can't sleep. This is something that you deal with, but everybody's got something. Nobody's perfect, So everybody's got an issue one way or another. So that was my mindset too. I kind of felt bad for everybody else. It's like, then you sit there and talk to them. It's like, well, I got this issue, and they're like, everybody's got something.
Yeah. Well, and then the funny part is when I start talking about it, people are either they have some similar, or their parent or brother has it.
They know somebody,
and they're like, oh, did you try? And then now I'm getting like recipes and suggestions
requests,
on pizza places that do taste good.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So I mean, I don't know. It is weird. That's a battle. That's a very mild battle, obviously, but it's something that you can be vocal about. Actually, you have to be vocal about, because then people just half the time think you're rude for you coming over their house, not eating. Exactly. Or the other thing is I eat before I go.
You walk into a house with a lunchbox.
Yeah, exactly.
And they invite you for dinner.
Exactly, the little cheddar cheese in there. But there's people who are facing battles that they can't be vocal about. And that's I think that's a more serious thing, more serious struggle than mine. Obviously, like I said, that's a way mild thing that I'll work through, get over, and overcome. It's just it was just my example of something that's current and obviously fresh in my mind because I'm just staring at like tasty cakes in my cabinet.
Yeah, like you said, like obviously that's a more outward struggle, I guess, for the most part. But like me, like I know, like I mentioned like a couple of times ago, like stuff like I don't talk about is like like certain anxieties and like certain fears and certain things that I've just been dealt with like since I was younger, and like I've actually like when I was like early 20s I went to counseling and stuff like that for certain things like I just don't talk about because I I feel like when I talk about it, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I feel like my point's not getting across, so it doesn't make any difference to actually vocalize that stuff.
So you're like, what's the point?
Sort of, and it's like like fears are irrational anyway. So like that type of stuff, like trying to explain that, it really doesn't make any sense. So like the point of fears and irrationality, like it just doesn't make sense. And like I forgot what you said. Like I was looking, like you said, the second half of the like stuff that you wish you people know. Like I don't want to tell anybody like that type of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like I just don't want people to know that. And like usually if I do start talking about that, I'm usually mostly like, I guess for the most part, I'm the happy person going on, but like it drags my bullshit down.
Yeah.
And even the social stuff, like I just kind of like bleed into the background type stuff because I need to like mentally kind of like get myself together in my mind. Like I don't want to like be in that moment, so I just need to like kind of separate myself. So it's like I need to like just keep on going eventually, and like I'll get back to the right mind. But it's just stuff it's like in my own mind it doesn't make sense. So like how is me explaining to somebody else gonna make any more sense than me trying to say it?
Yeah. Well, I've known you for roughly 10 years, and actually it's been 10 years, June. So for 10 years, and from 10 years ago to now, like the growth has been, through the charts. Oh, because I remember when our initial conversation, not trying to be rude or anything, but it was just awkward. I didn't know what was going on. Yeah. Remember I told you, I didn't even know what you asked me to do. It's weird. I'm like, oh man, what would...
Because it went from like random, like, because we just connected on like obviously I didn't know you that long at that point. We were talking about family life and music and stuff like that, with random stuff, and then I brought up something random as hell, and
then I was like, oh, all right.
But even like going through like even like that, just putting myself in that environment, like how I even met you, that's even like a huge thing that I even did for myself. Even though like there was I would struggle with like success and certain things like that, and just like other stuff that goes along with that, like for the fact that I even did that was like a huge thing in my own mind that even like went forward with that and stayed there for like we did like a couple years or whatever. Yeah. And even like now, like still I kind of go back and forth for certain other things. Even like doing like the podcast now is like that's a huge thing in my own mind that like that I wouldn't 10 years ago I would never even like, or I guess more than 10 years ago at this point. Yeah. That I would never even like
consider.
Exactly. That would not have been a second thought in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, but then it was interesting because the more I got to talk to you, I don't even know if it was, I guess it's also just understanding how you communicate. It's not that there's something wrong. It's not that there's something whatever. In your mind, like you're saying, the fear was something that it was just, because to me, there's people who are confident as all, and I don't understand what they're saying. It has nothing to do with being like, they're not bashful at all. They're not, they have no anxiety. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even know what you're saying. Sure. So it's just, you communicate yourself clear. But I think also too in your mind it's a much bigger thing. Because to me, to me, like certain things, my mind's just racing. So it's like even when I don't have what I'm trying to think about and trying to express myself, it doesn't sound like it's coming clear. It may sound different on the hour because even like listening to myself recording, like it sounds totally different than like what I thought I said. What I was like, so it was like there's outward like expectations for sort of what I think I'm doing as opposed to like what's actually coming across. Right. Fine. That's why I always have issues with. I feel like I don't communicate properly and stuff like that. So like, but it's like also my mind reeling at the same time. So. That makes any sense, but but like I said, for me, being your friend for 10 years, there's a totally when it comes to communication, it's also me understanding, how we, because our bond changed, right? Like it grows, so then we understand each other better. You sometimes you don't have to say anything, and I know what you're saying. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, you've came like leaps and bounds from that initial conversation to now that look at you're talking on a podcast, in front of whatever it is, thousands of people. And to me, it just doesn't look like it's a thought. To me, it's just, you're doing you.
And I even made a comment, like literally in the past couple of days, to somebody like that. And they actually, which I thought was odd that somebody said I was kind of outgoing, which I didn't think I ever was, but
oh man, did you give a woohoo? I mean, did you cheer?
It was through text, but I mean, so I couldn't. I mean, it wasn't like I was like, oh, that's interesting. But I mean, it's like I'm not outwardly like expressive like that anyway. But I mean, I just thought it was interesting. I was like, that's a huge
step forward.
Yeah, in terms of like what I have a perception of myself.
Good for you.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, and super proud of the the progress, because like to me that was a visual thing and friendship thing, seeing that growth. That was different. I know a lot of people don't get to experience that, or some people only known you for a limited amount of time, but making some crazy progress with that, and super exciting progress actually, because now that we're doing a podcast, who knows what this can go into later on.
Oh, that's gonna drive my anxiety worse. But
Yeah. might be video coming soon.
Oh,
hint,
dear.
hint.
Yes.
So, does anyone else have a battle or saying battle sounds nuts because every time I see the word battle, I literally think of war, like old,
Right,
yeah.
you know, colonial times and like George Washington, someone playing a flute in front of him and then cannons going
Coming
off.
down. Yeah, well, with me, it's explaining myself, like pretty much like what Gabe has. I feel like I can never explain myself in the right way. Like exactly what Gabe. There's like I have the perfect picture in my mind, but when I say it, it doesn't come out that way. So even if you would ask me for directions, I would be totally lost. I couldn't tell you from left to right.
Yeah.
But I can get you there.
Yeah.
On it's just like the expressing, even with dealing with people, like expressing my feelings. Sometimes I just hold back. Like I'd rather not, because I feel like if I say it, I'm going to say it the wrong way. They're going to take it the wrong way.
Yep.
So I just hold back. I just sit. So I really don't say much sometimes. But I feel like then when I go home or I think about it, I'm like, damn, well, I should have just said it. I should have just
It
did
bothers
this.
us.
Or yeah, it could be in any situation. Like even at work, if something like gets me like frustrated and I just don't say anything. I just let it slide. Then I go home. I'm like, dude, I should have just said something because now next time they're gonna do the same thing. They're just gonna think I'm gonna let it slide. Like I don't know. That's what my thing is.
yeah, there's times like with that, like I always constantly like I'll go like later on, like I'll think about it. I have like replay the conversation in my head and like what I would have said and type stuff. Like
That's interesting too because your job is a very social job.
Yeah.
And I even remember thinking like, you know, as like growing up, like you being more quiet than me and Heck.
Yeah.
Heck was to me was the most vocal. I was kind of in between, and you're a little bit more reserved.
I am vocal.
It wasn't even that it was a negative thing. It was just I just felt like you're just more reserved. That was
Yeah.
all I thought of it as.
And I am a very, very like observant person. Like I observe everything that's going on. I'm more of a visual than like
Yeah.
anything vocal.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually working at the barbershop brought me out. I had no choice but to talk
Yeah.
to people, but to like ask how their weekend was or give my input on things because they're asking me and stuff like that. Once it gets going, it's fine. It's just like the initial like part from me asking a question or me demanding something or telling something. That's where it comes out where it's kind of difficult for me to say or do sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and doing the podcast now.
Yeah.
I mean,
now.
ironically, there's a bunch of stuff that I've learned about all the guys here that I had no idea about and I would have never known if we weren't doing this.
Yeah.
Which is actually pretty cool.
It is.
But all right, so with that being said, let's jump into our next segment, Dad Life. We all face our struggles, kind of the ones that we're talking about here. But the question here is, how do you face them in front of your children? Kind of like how much exposure do they get into your issue?
I have four girls, 4 daughters, and my wife and I, we try not to. Our house isn't big, so we try not to talk about our, not problems, but like
Struggles.
I guess, yeah, like struggle, like like our, I guess,
Like the
normal
day-to-day stuff?
day-to-day stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
and we need to do this or we need to get that. We try not to do that in front of the kids because I think the one time, my wife and I we were talking about something, and Lainey caught on, and she's like, "So does that mean I'm not gonna have a party, a birthday party?" And my wife goes, "No, that does not mean that." And she just kind of spoke to her, and then my wife goes, "We definitely need to watch what we say in front of the kids because they're picking up and stuff like that." But it's like, and it's we try not to do it around them. Most of the times when we talk, it's at nighttime. Like the kids are already asleep. I'm on the couch or we're in bed and just watching TV and going on, and we just try to keep stuff amongst ourselves. That way the kids don't get involved, and the kids shouldn't ever have to have any worries. You know what I mean? Like don't let the kids say any of that stuff. And I guess that's how we were raised. Like growing up, I thought my parents had the happiest life, and now it's like realizing that they struggled so much for us that in the back end of it, we didn't know anything about it. We just thought we were just, oh, we're going here over this weekend, or we're going over there, and it was like they just made everything happen.
Right.
And I guess that's how I see it. So me and my wife, we just try to do that as well with the kids. So I don't know. That's how we do. We just try not to do it in front of them.
I don't. Same thing. We hide the struggle for me, and glorify the
wins?
the wins,
Yeah.
wins, or the path to the win, kind of the journey to get there. You glorify that in front of them, show them here. This is why we were able to yield this result. This is why we're having a good time because of this. The struggle, like you said, and me personally, kids should never know. Be kids, man. You're gonna have these issues,
Have no
and
worries.
struggles when you get older. Don't worry about it now. Just go and have fun. But at the same time, trying to incorporate life lessons along the way is kind of that's a struggle. But when you get those opportunities to do so, I think you should absolutely take advantage of it. So, when you're showing them and you're kind of getting over an obstacle in front of them, man, take advantage of it and really show them, because at that particular time, they're forming their own judgment of you. Like right then and there, they're already formulating opinions about you, good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, you're always going to be their dad, and they'll probably love you unconditionally. But I mean, they're making their own decisions of how they perceive you. So I really try to be a big winner. When I win, I try to win big in front of them. And it sounds kind of stupid, but that's how I kind of take it.
So basically, it's you guys stop for the teachable moments.
Yeah.
Kind of figuring it out first, though. So you kind of figure out the problem first, or you kind of along the way, you're like, all right, well, we can. The reason why, okay, so for a perfect example is, let's say you guys went on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like a time where you say, like, the reason we go on vacation is because mommy and daddy work so hard? Is that like something? Is that what you're talking about, or are you just mean like?
No, I mean there are those instances where it comes for me. I don't know if it happens to anybody else. You get them one thing, like maybe it might be a toy or something, or let's just say you're at a theme park. We were at a theme park all day. We ate lunch, we ate dinner. We did the whole thing. We had a whole day, and the fit that was thrown, because let's just say we weren't going to get ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude.
Oh.
It snapped. I was like, really? And I kind of lost my cookies. I said, here, this is why this happens. But yeah, that to me, that's those are the times when you kind of give those. But I mean, the big struggles, that ones that like kind of might shape what your kid thinks of you, I stop. But small struggles that you were able to overcome, like you might be frustrated about doing this. So during the home renovation projects, the misery was written all over my face as you're going through. I mean, it sucks, something serious. But at the end of the day, like when he's in there, you kind of just keep it moving. Okay, try to stay positive. Try to just put your best foot forward in those instances. So kind of subconsciously he sees like, oh, he's miserable, but he's still doing it. Yeah. Type thing. So, you kind of pick and choose your battles, but those are, knee-jerk reaction. Those were probably the two instances that I would use as examples. And
I'm assuming too, I mean, I have a 2-year-old, but it comes with what you explain to your kids as it's an age-appropriate thing, maturity thing.
Absolutely.
Some kids can handle or sense. That's the thing with kids now. I feel like they sense stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's
way more than I sense stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Eva's 9, and she knows what goes on, and obviously we just went through a little family situation, and she's 9, so she understands a lot of things. So I kind of sat down and broke it to her in a kid appropriate way, not without getting into too much detail, so that she can understand why we're doing this, we are going, and then paint the positive picture after, because of this situation, this is what we're doing, but this is the outcome that we're trying to have. So like, and she gets it. I mean, she doesn't really ask questions, and I know it probably like later on the road, like a couple months from now, I'll probably ask her if she has any questions or anything, what's going through her head. But I don't want to put pressure on her either, for her to like feel like she has to like ask questions. If nothing pops up, then just keep it moving. And she just sees, and I just display what I tell her, like, this is what we're gonna do, and just go with it. And then hopefully she like builds that trust in me, and obviously she does, and it'll have that like relationship where when something does go wrong in her world, she can come and tell me and not be afraid or hide things. Like, that's the worst thing, is to hide things.
Do you have to pull things out of her?
Yes, sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, do you know though? Can you sense like when she wants to ask you a question?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, she's very. Yeah, you can sense it. Actually, sometimes you can't, but for the most part, I can feel it out. Like, yeah.
My CJ's the complete opposite. Dad, I got a question. He'll no matter what it is, so he knows
good,
at all times. Yeah, Sometimes because sometimes I don't have an answer, so it's not always good.
Yeah, so I guess like when we are explaining it to our kids, it's what like Goose was saying. It's maturity level. It's the age appropriateness. There's just at some level, people call it sugarcoating. It doesn't matter. It's giving it a lighthearted version is not a negative thing.
Yeah.
If there's no need to give a kid such a harsh reality if it's they can't do anything about it, especially,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Now, obviously, if someone passes away or something like that, like you have to kind of, even that still, you could still say in a, creative way. But I don't like, kind of what you were saying, keeping the kids totally out of, because it's not it's taking them out of reality too.
Right,
when
right.
you sugarcoat way too much and protect them, overprotect them,
Yeah.
and don't get that little, they have to get the bumps and the bruises.
Yeah.
Even though you hurt for them, I just feel like they have to have that to be actually emotionally in touch with real life.
Yeah, it's life, yep. And that way it'll prep them up for the real world.
Yeah, I mean, what in the world? Everyone knows a person who's lived in a bubble, and it's
Yes.
a disaster. It's literally a recipe for, disaster. And at one point, people always say, they point at at the parents or whatever. Being a parent, you could almost relate to some weird level because you do want to just protect your kids. But at the same time, there's certain things you got to let go or let slide or let them actually experience. Because, when I went to Temple, we've encountered, certain people who are like, dude, you are out of touch of what is real.
Yeah.
And we were experiencing life on a totally different level for 18 years because what I was walking around doing, you were like, in complete paranoia and dropped out of college, because they were never exposed to certain things, and you're like, what in the? And to me, I was just like, I was thrown off. It was like, what? Where did you live for 18 years?
Yeah.
And it was under a rock, clearly. So yeah, there's pros and cons to that, and I think you have to, like we're saying, explain things to to the certain level, to a certain degree, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So I actually kind of like that. All right, so let's jump right back into our fourth segment, which is a "What Would You Do" segment. And so this is kind of more of a serious tone, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, depending on, I guess, the person who's telling you this. So, what would you do or have done when a person tells you they are suffering from a possible life-threatening disease/illness? So let's just say it's a loved one, obviously, if they're going to tell you, and it's a face-to-face thing. This gets real weird, real touchy with, certain people, certain, I don't know, just things on how communication, let's just say. Because I'm a person who's like, there's certain things you shouldn't do over the phone or on a text message.
Yeah.
There's certain things like you should come in person. We should have
Face-to-face.
a face-to-face conversation for. So that being, said, if the person legit comes up to you and says, like, what's your reaction? And sometimes people get sad. Sometimes people get, there's just jump on being supportive because they've had experience in the past. But getting beyond the emotion part, what do you tell someone who's facing something like that?
You just tell them, depending on what it is. If you have come across that same situation in the past, tell them your
Experiences?
Yeah, tell them your experiences about it, and just like explain it the best way you can, with ease. Because they're obviously coming to you for a reason.
Right.
I mean, try to comfort them. Talk about it, and if you don't know nothing about it, like say if it's a disease or illness, you don't know nothing about it, just say, look, we can look this up, or we can go about it together to give that comfort. So to show them not to be scared or afraid of anything, that you're not going to go through it alone, that somebody will be there with you on your side, like.
And I think to piggyback what you guys are saying, it's just for me is to be supportive. Now, supportive might be just financially, might just be a shoulder to cry on. It might be,
Absolutely.
It might be for them,
That's all they needed.
Yeah, you need to get pissed for them. Like, they're just not mad no more. And maybe you try to, lift them up with something, whatever it might be. Just try to be supportive and kind of get a feel for what they need or what they're feeling, and then kind of pick them up that way.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. Being, a strong portion of their support system, which I don't know, which somebody said is the reason why they went to you. being empathetic towards the situation. And I know one thing that I've seen in front of me happen, which kind of drove me nuts, was and it wasn't to me, it was to someone else going through something. Was I just thought it was insensitive. The person told them something, and it wasn't about them personally. It was about a parent that was going through something, an illness or whatever, and I guess it was trying to be supportive, but they're like, "Oh yeah, I went through that, blah blah blah, with such and such," and kind of just shut the conversation down. Like, dude, this person's coming to you for like support, and you just became a know-it-all.
Shut 'em down,
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, it's not the same. No matter what, even if you're okay. So my father passed away from pancreatic cancer. If your father passed away from pancreatic cancer, I'm not gonna go to you and say like, "Oh yeah, dude, I went through the same thing," and then just like stare at
shut
you
it
like I
down.
just solved everything or something.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
Everyone
ignorant.
goes through it differently.
Everyone
Yeah,
experiences
totally.
it different.
Everyone's so just being sensitive, and I think that's the best way to take kind of like tippy toe forward and take big steps back.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I just want you to know that I'm here. I'm not,
Right.
I don't have like the world solution. I'm not God. I'm not gonna figure everything out. But I have experience on certain things. If you want to, explore, and we can explore this together, we can figure this out. Just letting them know that you're there is really all they want. They just want that arm around their shoulder kind of thing. As that's healing in itself.
Right. Yeah.
Because no matter how similar a situation is, it's always different for that person.
Totally.
Because it's always, everybody like the point of this podcast, like everybody's dealing with something different. So like they have their own mindset of how they're dealing with it. So you have to be as supportive to them as much as you can, because you don't know what they're what's going through their mind at the moment.
Exactly. And exactly. You don't know what you're about to say, how they're going to take it. Then
Right.
all of a sudden they could send them into the deep end.
Yeah. You don't know how strong their emotions are too.
Exactly.
Like, they can
Very
be weak
delicate.
it's a delicate situation, so you gotta definitely be careful.
Let me go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and that goes with us. Like you just said, we lost our father from cancer, or whatever. But I'm pretty sure, heck, Jim can say things differently than what I would say. Each
Right.
person has their own. They went through different things. Yeah, they have their own point of view on how they will deal with it. So I mean, it's just all an individual.
In that, when your mom told us, it was totally different because it had never happened to anybody in our family. I was pissed. My initial reaction was just pissed. I was angry. I walked around the house angry. Or my dad came over and was like, "Yo, relax," and I was just mad. Once I got through mad, I became sad, and then I was like kind of hurt and frustrated, and then I finally became supportive, and then I just walked over to your mom, and she held me for like 3 minutes while I cried, and she says it's okay. But that was it. I was initially pissed, like mad at everybody, like why him? And then I became sad and then frustrated.
You went
and
through the emotions.
Yeah. And the crazy thing, it was all in a matter of 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
There was, at that point, there was like 15 people, and everybody's looking around, and it was like, the emotions were unbelievable, and it was just like, oh my God, it was just shock for a lot of people. But initially, I couldn't even be supportive to her at that point. I had to go through like 3 different phases. Everybody did different. My dad walked around and smoked cigarettes for 20 minutes. And I was just like, yo, Dad, you need to stop. He's like, you need to go in there with your sister. So, like you said, it's just one big ball of emotion. Here, she's the rock out of the whole damn thing. She's the one going through it. And she's the one of, guys, it's okay. We'll be all right. And we were all freaking out, which was a weird set of circumstances.
Well, yeah, and I also think, when you initially find something out like that, you have to let the emotions ride out.
Yeah.
And my mom prepared, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
to
guess,
kind of that whole thing. So you're comparing, I guess, your worst to basically her best, which a lot of people just do in life in general.
Mm-hmm.
She was already went through what you already had went through.
Right,
and then all of a sudden, 10 minutes later, you said, you kicked in, you're like, Pop, you got to go back in or whatever. So she was already there.
Yeah.
And to be for something else is somebody has to be strong. And you have to start thinking, it's like, dude, if everyone's just like rolling around down hills and just melting in front of each other, which there's nothing like,
There's nothing wrong with
it's
that.
initially
There's
going to
nothing-
happen.
yeah.
Initially, that is going to happen.
Absolutely.
But I'm just saying, like, at some point, like, someone has to,
gotta-
like, pick themselves up enough,
right.
obviously, because the situation's awful, but enough to, coordinate things and keep the flow of life in general going. I think sometimes some people don't, and it's a scary thing. You can slip into other, areas of life you don't ever want to go into. And that's the reason why we should be empathetic to other people. We should be more sensitive to each other. Our kids pick up stuff that a grown man or a grown woman can't even pick up on. Kids sense that you're sad.
Right.
Kids sense that you're whatever. Well, I just think that sometimes we could be so, not cold-hearted, but we're so, I don't even know what the word is.
Jaded?
Yeah, we're just so jaded just with life in general that we're missing the cues.
Yeah.
So if we're kind of a little bit more sensitive, you don't know. That conversation you had with somebody could quite literally have saved them.
Yeah, and, human beings by nature are selfish, though, and it's hard. You're consumed with your own life, so whatever somebody's going through, it's really hard unless you stop and really think about it to put yourself in that person's shoes. You know what I mean? They say,
Absolutely.
and just keep it moving. Meanwhile, that person is like, screaming out to you, like, "Can I just talk to you?"
Yeah,
and you have no idea.
Yeah. All right, cool. So that wraps up this episode of the Rotated Views. In this episode, we discussed that everyone is battling something, life struggles, and during the battle, being sensitive to certain situations, having empathy, and handling the struggle in front of our children. We're going to wrap this episode up with quotes from Pope Paul VI and Elisabeth Kubler-Ross. So for the first quote by Pope Paul VI, all life demands struggle. Those who have everything given to them become lazy, selfish, and insensitive to the real values of life. The very striving and hard work that we so consistently try to avoid is the major building block in the person we are today.
Boom.
Straight fire. And the second quote is by Elisabeth Kubler-Ross. The most beautiful people we have known are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known struggle, known loss, and have found their way out of those depths. Wow. That's a beautiful one right there.
It's pretty intense.
All right. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyleeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.